So I guess one more time, hello, and actually, would anybody like to take a crack at the intro?
Not a chance, mate. Not a chance.
You're good.
Wow, really?
You should have warned us, okay? That should be the intro. You should make that the intro.
Okay. I'm just saying that the people, the people whom we dearly respect, would probably benefit from hearing one of you guys' astute voices calling us in. No? Nobody? No takers?
No.
Nah.
All right, fine.
It's the Ebube show, please.
All right, let's cue dun 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 dun. Hello, and welcome to the end. Welcome to everything you've dreamed. Welcome to everything you thought, and of course, welcome to Cold Harbor. My name is Ebube, and you are listening to Popcorn for Dinner. This week on Severance, we meet the finale. We learn a lot, but we also learn quite a little. However, we are liberated from our shackles on the testing floor, and we're able to look our oppressors in the face and tell them to devour feculence. Joining me today for the final time, supposedly, are AJ, Chinedu, and Jerry. And we have quite a lot to get into today, people, don't we?
Yes, we do. We definitely do.
It's the end of Severance. Who's excited?
No one.
Yeah, I know. This is not exciting at all. This is absolutely tragic. This is what life is doing this. Okay, this is like doing 10 weeks straight of House of the Dragon, or even 10 weeks straight of Industry, and then all of a sudden there's nothing. What am I supposed to do now? What are we supposed to do now?
No, get a life on, right?
Yeah, supposedly that's what some people might do, but I guess this is a great point to thank everyone who's been on this journey with us. 10 weeks straight, we've loved getting your thoughts, seeing your posts, reading your tweets, your comments, enjoying your engagement. It means everything, and we are very grateful. I am personally humbled to have the audience that we do. And, people who've been analyzing the season from the beginning with us will remember that we've been talking specifically about the Severance question to answer ratio. And for anybody who doesn't know, that is a metric we have adopted on this podcast to gauge the rate at which the show is revealing things to us. So I suppose where we can start now is, how do we feel about this ratio? What is it saying? Is this satisfactory? Have we learned enough? Is the show still kind of lording secrets over us? What do you guys think? Let's start there.
I feel because I want more. I want season 3, season 4, season 5. I like the fact that there's a lot of answers we don't have, so I can anticipate these answers in future seasons. But yeah, I'm still very confused after this finale, but I'm okay somehow.
Okay, so confusion is still our point of reference, right? I mean, Chinedu, do you agree with this, or do you have a different word in mind?
100%. 100%. I mean, I don't know if you guys experienced this while watching Severance, yeah? Maybe you just click on the time scroll and you're like, I'm halfway through the episode already.
Yeah.
I definitely had that with this episode.
Oh, man.
I
saw 76 minutes. So.
Yeah, I had that with this. I had that with the last one as well, because the last one I think was 49. And I clicked the time scroll and I'm like, 25 minutes, huh? How has that happened? But yeah, in regards to confusion, definitely. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about the episode in a bit more detail, but yeah, I do think that they need to hold a press conference and allow us viewers to actually ask them questions so that they answer it one by one, because they are doing us dirty at this point now.
Yeah, I don't even know that they'd really give us the answers.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess looking at the concept of answers and getting stuff revealed to us, and the direction of the episode, some quick notes, I suppose, would be the fact that there's no Bert, no Irving, no Eustace Huang, no Rickon, and even no Natalie. Are we all cool with this? Like, is there anything we wish we would have learned about these specific people in the finale? Anything that felt like a loose end that we were hoping would come through? For example, is Rickon still writing that book? Did Miss Huang's bed get delivered? You know?
So honestly, I think on that note, this is why I agree with AJ that I'm happy with the way it ends, because there's a lot more to still explore. Like, the world doesn't end here. Like, the story, the main story we've been following could end here if they wanted to, but it doesn't have to. There's enough leeway to keep going. But I don't know if I would say I feel confusion. I feel like I'm actually satisfied with quite a few of the answers they did provide, even if some of them was stuff they had already kind of told us, but they're now like telling the characters, so we're viewing that as well. Things like Bert, Irving, yes, those are questions that we have to explore later. If we ever see Irving again, I have no idea. Miss Huang, all of that.
You think there's a chance we're not going to see Irving again?
I mean, I would like to assume that we would, but I can see why we didn't in this episode. Like, the show does a good job of keeping its goodbyes feeling like goodbyes anyway, like at least for the next episode. So like, for like Natalie, for instance, there was nothing Natalie would have added to this particular episode except possibly being there to
unless
witness.
She's one of the ones sired in the shadows. But
yeah, like there, we don't, like, it doesn't take away anything not having Natalie there. It doesn't take away anything not having Irving for this particular story they told in this episode. However, going forward, the world of Severance still has a lot to tell, especially with the fallout from this episode.
Yeah,
I would say though, I don't know about season 5. Like,
yeah,
season 4.
Let's be
max.
hopeful, guys.
No. I'm not saying that I think they're not going to do it. I'm saying I don't want the show to go to season 5. I don't think it's that.
I was just about to ask you that. Do you how many
I-
seasons do you think the show needs?
4 max. I don't
5.
think it's a season 5 type of show.
What's the difference between 4 and 5?
10 episodes.
Right?
Yeah, that is pretty significant. Can't lie.
I feel like we've come far enough that like we can start not necessarily wrapping up the story, but like the next season can be a lot of this aftermath, and then the fourth season can wrap things up. I won't lie, I like a nice odd number of seasons sometimes, but I don't know. 4 is always, why 4? Yeah. 5 kind of makes sense, but I don't, for this particular story, it feels like they would have to stretch to make it 5. People already kind of, God, don't even get me started on the comments.
I'm sure if you commission research shows that no show prospers after 5 seasons.
All of that aside, I think it makes sense for us to, think about the beginning, right? So Mark is literally having a bargain with his innie. And as a result, he sells him a dream, which is a thing that's done quite a lot on this show, selling people dreams, right? It's actually some of the most impressive exposition and fourth wall breaking I've ever seen, because this conversation between the two of them essentially addresses a lot of the audience's burning questions about what a fully reintegrated person would look like. And I just kept sitting there hoping the battery of the camera wouldn't die. So what did you guys think of this conversation? And what were you shocked to see how much the marks were not on the same page?
No, because a lot of this season has been outies versus innies. And then we see that they're starting to mark or to have their own life inside Lumen. Some of them it's not working out, like Dylan, but they've had something to click onto slowly. And he breaks it down excellently. You want me to sacrifice everything I have. This is all I ever know. And you've been alive for, God knows what, maybe 35 years. I've been alive for 2 years. And, if there is a reintegration, there's going to be more you than me. I mean, you can see why this is not a healthy or a balanced bargain. So, not really surprised. What I did also think about the scene was it was phenomenal acting by Adam Scott, man. That was
amazing.
Yeah. That was amazing stuff. Yeah, it's just you just have to just be in awe while he's just in his groove, going through that. I can't even imagine how many cuts they had to do for that to be that perfect.
Yeah,
and they do everything practically, right? So it's actually fun to see. I mean, performances were fantastic all around in this.
Yeah, and the direction as well was amazing too. So yeah.
Yeah, the show really has its own voice, and that voice I find is very, very effectively expressed when we have the combo of directed by Ben Stiller and written by Dan Erickson, which is the case here, right? I feel like, with this episode being called Cold Harbor, there's a lot of pressure, right? We've been hearing about it literally from the beginning.
yeah.
And, now we're at a point where we understand or try to understand the revelation of what it means. So I guess I'm going to kind of jump into not necessarily philosophical questions, but a sense of practicality in our understanding of the episode, and pose the question, do we understand what Cold Harbor is now? Do we actually know?
To be honest, I'm not sure. So don't ask me.
I think what I would say is we have an understanding of what Cold Harbor would mean in essence. The actual we've seen the beginning of the test, and we have enough clues to show us things that will happen, like when Helly's asking questions like, so what happens after the extract chip, blah blah blah, all of that. But we don't, because we didn't actually see Cold Harbor, which is what we probably came into this episode thinking we're going to see. It's kind of still unanswered, but it is answered in a way because we've had the exalted victory. She's had the efficacy tests, but we haven't seen anything more.
I mean, I think for me, it was pretty answered though. I would say it was hilarious just seeing us throw up death theories and all sorts
Yeah.
of drowning and everything. And then he just comes to the room and just see a cradle. Oh, just like...
There was one death, and I guess it's as is our mantra on this show. Ebube was right. I was right. I was right. I was right.
Okay.
Drummond is dead. Big Word is marked. Okay, like he's gone.
A lot of us are right about a lot of things regarding Cold Harbor, but I think just to pick up what you said, I'm not saying that we didn't have an answer. That's what I mean. Like, we have enough of the picture, but the fact is, what would have happened after they saw that the Severance barrier was holding? Like, say Mark didn't actually come into the room, what was going to happen next? Because that's kind of what everyone was hating at, that when she, when he just going to enter a room with a gun and shoot her. Like, no, there had to be something more. And that's what we haven't seen. But for the purpose of the story, that's not necessary.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of like hinted, like, it's like they're going to kill her, yes, and collect her chip. But the question now is like, okay, her chip to do us, because I think it was Drummond that said something about like Care's eternal war against pain. So obviously the whole thing was about pain. Like, is the barrier going to be able to like hold up, and she's not going to feel pain from something that was meant to trigger her, because that was the crib, her baby's crib, the baby she lost. So it was about pain. But then when Mark and Gemma got in the elevator, the other doctor came and said, "Oh, you're going to kill them all."
Exactly.
And I'm like, so who is being tormented with, like, who would even know how much level of like pain they're feeling right now, that he's saying if you leave and we don't get this chip, they're all going to die. So that's like more questions. Like, I'm just so confused.
What is the world that she is siring that he's talked about? What could it be that they are actually putting together that they think will change the way people live? That's essentially the question of what Cold Harbor is. On some level, it's what's in the room, but we don't necessarily know what we saw. What we saw in the room, we don't really know if that is the end of it. Like, we don't know necessarily the significance and why that efficacy.
I say it's not the end of it at all, because that room was the efficacy test, is my opinion. I think that was the first part of the test, and then they would go into whatever Cold Harbor really is. And we didn't get to that point because Mark interrupted. Also, just on the whole thing about the plan, or like if we're trying to answer the plan of the chip versus Cold Harbor, I think Cold Harbor isn't even necessarily the final thing of the chip, because when Mark completed the file, Kier's animatronic thing was like, you have, brought, you've taken us nearer to my ultimate plan, or like whatever. He didn't say you have completed my plan. So there's still more to be explored at the end of the day. Sorry,
yeah,
maybe
100%. I don't think. I mean, Cold Harbor is definitely just restricted to the room. It's not the term for their wider plan. It's just a series of tests. And Cold Harbor was just the final test. And what is a long-term plan for what they had in terms of painless human experience, should I say, and probably so much more that they have in terms of maybe recreating consciousness. Because we've seen. That scene with Milchick was really creepy, because I don't know if you guys experienced the same, but I thought it was one of those, award shows where the robot has practiced with Milchick.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the robot is having some actual, autonomy in terms of its expressions. And I'm like, whoa.
Who do you guys think was voicing?
Yeah, so that I was gonna go. Do you think? Yeah, exactly. Did you guys think? At first, I was like, they're not. This is not an AI. This is Drummond. But then, it's
sure.
When he said
I want to say that, but wasn't it possible that Drummond was already in the secret room for good sacrifice?
I don't think it was.
It could have been Dr. Mauer. It could have been Drummond. It also could have just been an AI. But if it's an AI, it's a very good AI, because it was able to take feedback. But the reason why I think it was someone, that comment, Maya, you're verbose, that was definitely someone up there that
made me feel
chick.
But at the same time, I wasn't sure that it was Drummond.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, also Drummond wouldn't say verbose. He's not that smart. As we
oh wow.
From the last episode.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Okay, well, there's a part of me that
Dr. Mauer
still is wondering, not even just in terms of Dr. Mauer, but in terms of James Egan. I mean, his reaction to Mark interrupting the whole thing actually floored me. Like when he started screaming.
Bro,
I didn't see that coming.
You can scream?
Like Michael Siberry was doing the Lord's work, because bro, this man let's think about what happened here, right? He came down in an elevator that they built just for him that leads to just this table. And then he sits down and he's watching the screen and he's just supposed to go back up. Like, when you're big, you're big. That's just what it means. Like, he doesn't have to see anybody. He doesn't have to deal with anything. But then this happens that he's shouting, and there's a big part of me that feels the way he does at some level, because I feel like now I'll never know what was actually supposed to happen. And I kind of need to know what would have happened next. I wondered what kind of action, he was going to take. Like, I was like, is he going to show up at some point and react, kill somebody, say something, or we just don't really see him for the end of it. So I wonder what is going to be like with him / for him in the beginning of season 3. Yeah. I mean, Gemma's escape attempts clearly were training for this exact moment.
Literally.
Seeing everybody's reactions under the red lights, like you just saw Helly's face, for example. Like, she knew that she had fought the good fight, and Milchick looked like he was having a reckoning. And just I know we're kind of still staying around the end here, because obviously there's so much going on in this episode. The climax was long. I feel like you got to a certain point in the episode and it was just overstimulation.
Literally. Like, I was up for 10 minutes screaming, like, what's happening?
I was taking notes, and I think it got to the end where I realized, or it got to a certain point where I realized I haven't typed anything literally for maybe 15 minutes.
So I tried to watch it a second time this morning before going to work, and I had the same thing, because I didn't write a lot of notes for the last 15-20 minutes, and then I finished the episode and I realized I did the same thing again.
Yeah, you just can't. You just can't.
Yeah. There was clearly a lot going on. Thinking about the end of at least Milchick's arc in the season, I know I said it looked like he was having a reckoning under those red lights. Based on everything that we've been discussing, and based on everything that even fans have been saying in the wider world, people might have assumed that, this was maybe him thinking, what am I doing here? Why am I working for these people? Why am I helping this cause? Right? And just when you think that's happening, he turns around and he gets the most strength we've seen him gather, and he's actually able to push the vending machine down. His shoulder is destroyed, number one. But I will say, them showing us that moment of him breaking free, it's not like we'll see the aftermath of it in the episode, right? So did they just want to show us that because they wanted to show us everyone standing up to him? Did they want to show us his reaction to everyone standing up to him? Or just the fact that Dylan, who is feeling everything he's feeling, is looking him right in the face and is like, yeah, we're not going anywhere. Helly was able to convince everybody who is in this marching band to actually stay there with them. And their leader agreed. You could see it on his face. His name is Bukayo, by the way. That is very random, but his name is Bukayo.
It had to be something. I did say it earlier in the season. I literally said it earlier in the season that if we do get a Bukayo, and I said Bukayo, that this is going to be crazy. And they gave us a Bukayo.
They really did it.
Whoever is in the writer's room that is
cooking
up
Arsenal fans, 100%.
Arsenal
haters. Either way, they feel very passionately.
Whatever is going on universally, let us know these secrets.
Yeah, I'm telling you, what's so strange is that the first connection to this thing, the two people were actually not Arsenal connections.
Yeah,
at the time the show was filmed. So is there an insider in there?
There's definitely an insider. Because what are we doing here? But nah, it's too funny. It's really funny, and it was honestly fun to watch. But I guess thinking about Defiance, maybe we should talk about Dylan for a second, because I feel like he's gone through a lot. And I suppose my first question to you guys would be, were you surprised that his Audi didn't accept the resignation?
No.
Pretty much, yeah. Like they need to keep eating. So
yeah, they need money.
It's just the fact. Like they need money.
Right now.
He has children to feed. So, I feel like it's a fact. He has children to feed. And I think, honestly, him getting to read that letter was nice, because, it feels like he has so many thoughts, and it's in a sense completing the circle in a way, because now all the innies that are left still working here have now had a chance to speak to their Audi, right? Dylan is doing it through written word. The other two did it through videos. So what he said to him was interesting, because it calls to mind this whole thing of innocence of the innie. The innie is basically a version of the person who is unburdened by what life truly is. And we discussed this in episode 7 when we saw that Mark, when he met Gemma, was a lot like innie Mark now. He was wide-eyed, he was optimistic, and he had hints of both versions of himself, but like there was a sense of completion there. And innie Dylan is told by his Audi that he hopes she's going to see in him something at some point that, reminds her of him. Something that, turns into this situation of, I have you again. I have the person and the version of you that I missed.
So I personally liked this whole thing for Dylan, because I remember saying throughout the season that I really liked the scenes with Gretchen and Dylan, maybe because of the music they initially play in the background. It's always so sweet. It's always so nice for him. And I wanted that to continue. So I was especially heartbroken when I was watching episode 9 and I was seeing him essentially end his life because he was heartbroken. I think I didn't even take it in as much as I did the first time, the second time. And so when I came back to this episode and I saw, and I listened to what his outie wrote, I thought that was really sweet. It was honest, it was vulnerable, he was speaking as someone who was aware of his own shortcomings, but also actually making an effort to be better. Now, I don't know what that means, whether when he feels like he's now the selfish or badass, he'll take Dylan out or anything. I think there's a world where he can come to terms with the idea that this is still his wife in love with him. And that's probably what she was going to address when she said she probably said it didn't feel different or something like that. And I think that's good for Dylan because it allowed him to, one, realize that, I guess, as much as the outies and innies are on opposing sides of this battle that they didn't even realize was happening, that's a moment where they suddenly some sort of I guess communal goal or like a marrying of their goals. Like, for now, let's work on being the best versions of ourselves for Gretchen and our family. And that allows him to sit back with the rest of what has been going on the seventh floor, because throughout this season he's been more focused on, I need to spend time with my family. Anytime Helly comes in, like, why don't you do this for us? He's like, you keep prioritizing this outsy woman that you don't even really know. But so he hasn't helped them with their plans. He hasn't gone to get the things that Irving left for him. He's essentially abandoned them in a way. But now he has permission to come back and help his friends, because that is something he wants to do, even if he's heartbroken. So I really liked the transition from him reading that letter, hearing the band coming in, seeing the chaos, looking at what's going on with Milkshake, and obviously calling back to the season. There's so many callbacks to the season 1 finale as well, but like calling back to season 1 finale where Dylan is the one. I had in my notes, I was hoping that Dylan would get there in time to help Helly, and he did, and he pushed in the fridge and he said Dylan has trapped Milkshake away from where he needs to get to again, and that was just perfect. Yeah, it was perfect. It was poetic. And then pulling it back as well, you look at Helly, and Helly in a sense has become this kind of, without realizing it, she's been an activist, or like I had a different word in my notes, but let's just call her an activist for the innies the entire time, especially when she found out who she was on the outside and wanted to distance herself from her outie. And we'll talk more on that later. But the messaging she's been giving to all the innies this whole time has been, we are people too. And she gets on the table and does that too. So I think Dylan coming in on that same vibe, knowing this messaging he has been hearing from her, Mark S standing for himself in the cabin with Mark Scout and Miss Cobell and Devon, all of that comes together to this idea that Helly has already been inspiring them. Maybe that's the fire of care that James or Helly has been inspiring them, and we finally see the result of that inspiration, where these two departments come together unified to stand up to the authority, which in this case, Milkshake is the face of the authority, even if we know Milkshake himself has his problems with the authority. But in this situation, he was being the authority figure. And so that scene, I think that scene was important to be able to tell that story of, if we look at this entire episode as the innies finally taking a stand, innies finally unionizing and having their revolt together, that scene was powerful in demonstrating that, because then that scene gives a bit more weight to what to all those scenes I just mentioned, but also gives a bit more weight to what Mark S and Helly do at the very end as well, because right now the innies are taking a stand for themselves and for their existence.
That's a fair point. I think all of the innies kind of coming together is an interesting idea, and we see a lot of that kind of collaboration in this episode, with even, Mammalians Nurturable and all the goats and everything. I mean, I really did not expect to see those people again.
Yeah.
But here they are in this season doing whatever they're doing. And, that whole sacrifice, we'll get to that in a second, but Chinedu, what do you think?
It was good to obviously see her come back on screen again. But I think the goats just reminded, I know we spoke about the question to answers ratio. The goats just reminded me, why are there goats?
We actually still don't know.
Because
because in all honesty, right, what was that sacrifice gonna do?
Right. Yeah. So I had to think about that, but maybe we should save that. Do we have a fifth appendix for this episode, by the way?
Yes, we do. Okay,
so we'll save that for that. Then the goats. I had the same question. What? So the goats this whole time has just been like to sacrifice. Anyway, we'll get to that in a sec.
Because clearly she's given multiple.
when he brought out the gun, I thought he was gonna shoot the goats with, or not even shoot, inject the goats with a severance chip. Okay, then I was like, okay, maybe it's starting to make sense.
Oh,
That's what I
that's
genuinely
interesting.
thought. Yeah, I genuinely thought maybe
Nah.
they'll test it on the, I don't know, but then to just kill the goats and I don't know. And it was good to see her fight for, because I don't know how to explain it, but seeing people be that protective over what they do, and then just seeing it extend to the life that is around her was, because the way she was saying it, you would think that obviously she was fighting for human life, but it's even like the goats mean so much to her that, I wonder how many Drummond has killed at this point. Do you get what I mean? Because she was visibly traumatized by how much she just kept bringing, and it's not just that, it's also the fact that she kept killing her best ones too.
Yes,
because he would ask
that's
for
key.
I can't remember the exact lines that he said, but he would ask for the best ones. And
Has it verve?
Yeah,
exactly.
Has it wiles? Oh my God!
But
what a guy!
I'm very interested in the
very-
theory that Jerry probably has on that. To be fair, because
because they're
maybe I
doing
haven't had-
actual
maybe I
blood
haven't had-
sacrifice.
Yeah, so it's not
Maybe I
as
haven't
much
had
a
time to think
theory
about
and
it,
more. At least the ghost part of it is not as much a theory. It's more a question of what is it with their thing and their cult nature? Like, why does there have to be a sacrifice? Or what is the soul of this goat going to do to guide her to kill? Like, what's the necessity here? But yeah, they were weird about that. Is the best way I can put that.
she did ask, like Chinedu said, how many more must I give? And my thought was, assuming that she's given one for every completed file, did he give the answer he gave just to be a dick and exert power over her? Because the answer should be 0, right? Yeah. If Cold Harbor is the last file, the answer should be 0. That's assuming she's given one for every file. We don't necessarily know that.
Exactly,
so unless it isn't the case, and there's even more to the goats, because obviously we knew going into this episode that there would be some violence. I can see, I can't say this is what we were expecting, but it definitely tracks that they would attempt to do this on the goats. It kind of feels cohesive in a sense, and with the actual violence that happens later, I think is probably more fitting for what goes on, because it's as though the executioner becomes executed, so to speak. Because let's be real, how can this guy immediately start beating Mark? Because he comes out, right, and he sees the guy there, and his first goal is just like, I'm just going to start beating you. Why? Because he's finished the fires. Like, we don't need you anymore.
You know these secondary school bullies, because he's so much bigger than Mark. What are you doing?
No, because he's huge, right?
Your own size.
And that's actually something I had. I was like, I watched that fight. I'm like, this guy can't fight. He's just bigger. He can't actually. Like, Bark trips him and he goes, oh, fuck. I'm like, are you not ashamed of yourself, please?
No, literally, because Mark was like, okay, I'm leaving. Yeah, I'm leaving. And he just grabs him and he punches him in the face. He's like, well, okay, why do you want to beat him? Like, when you get it, I thought about AJ. I was just like,
To be fair, he has been with the watchers, watching Mark just be a scoundrel the entire
Yeah, but I feel like
scoundrel is crazy.
So he knew that he was up to something fishy again, to be fair.
yes,
there's
but
no
I feel
way.
like the men,
why not just
like, they follow like rules, and like there's a plan for everything. There was a plan to kill Mark. Yes, he would have followed whatever like procedure was in place, but he said, today I will beat you. For what reason? And Mark being like just like the innocent child he is, he was in shock. He's like, wait, what is going on?
He's like, why did you hit me?
Like, what is like I was going to leave, but like, why are you doing all of this? And it kept on like escalating, and I'm just like, Drummond, like, let's relax. I'm so sorry. But I was so happy when, you see, I love beautiful, strong women, because she beats his ass. She was really going in on that big, huge guy.
Yeah. Why is Gwendolyn Christie always fighting big, burly guys on Prestige TV in series finales? Like, look, man, I know we've all seen Game of Thrones season 4, episode 10, but bro, like, I wasn't expecting to see her in this episode, like, first of all. But I guess, Emile is okay, so that's nice. But she was really about to kill this guy. And I think it's wild that, you know, they're using the gun to threaten Drummond. But in the process, like they're going down that elevator, I was just like, once the thing changed, I was just like, yeah, this guy is finished.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to die actually.
But like the fact that they shot him in the neck, like, I mean, just the whole nervous reaction from the chip taking effect, and then imagine being Audi Mark and you're waking up, you're just seeing blood gushing out of somebody's neck in front of you. It's like last thing you saw was coming to work. It's like, bro, what's going on? Is this what happens in this place?
Such a funny way to die, though. Such a funny way to die.
That's what I mean. This episode had a lot of like funny moments like that. I didn't write all of them down, but that one was there.
Funny.
I didn't expect Drummond to die that way.
There are funny moments. Let's even go back to that scene with Dylan. Bro, I did not have it on my bingo card that Milkshake was faster than Barry Allen. I didn't have that.
But I had to take it back. Because I'm like, I was watching.
That's literally a blink and you miss it type of thing.
And I missed it. I was like, wait, what is hilarious.
He? How can he say, I'm duly swamped today? And then and as soon as he draws the paper, he just...
he didn't even... He could have walked away. He could have said, right, I'm going to go. He didn't even have to say it the way he said it. It was like, this would be embarrassing for you.
He was bitten last season by Dylan. Once bitten, twice shy, I think. So.
My name is Seth Milchick, and I am the fastest man alive. Oh, my God.
Wait, but honestly, guys, I thought it was a bomb. I was like, Dylan, you have to leave. Because why would he run? I thought it was a bomb.
No, it's because Milchick, he's just keeping... He's just keeping to time. Like he's like, I have no time to lose. I have a job to do. He's always understanding the assignments.
There's a TikTok comment that I saw in the TikTok. I think it was a Tillman interview, I think, and then the comment says, "Oh, Mr. Milchick, they will never make me make up my mind about you," and it was so real, man. It was so real. It was, are you a good guy? You a bad guy? You a funny guy? Are you annoying? Like they just can't make me make up my mind about you, man. Because even that presentation with with Kier was hilarious. You know, when he height shamed him, I was like, jeez.
And it was animatronic. Like the fact that those things were actually animatronic. Because in the first episode, right? One of the replacements was saying that in their branch. Their perpetuity wing figures were animatronic, and it turns out this one was animatronic this whole time. They just kept it still. Honestly, once the thing spoke and the music started playing, I immediately knew in my bones that Milchick was going to do a dance number. I just knew. I thought about the fact that they had shown him running, he was taking off his tie. I'm like, this guy is here to do a show of some sort. So when he showed up and he was still in the studio, I was like, okay, no problem. But then like they had a laugh track. And then it turns out he's clearly not involved in writing the script, because that joke about the appendix bursting, that hurt him. That really hurt him. Like he could see it on his face. So then he bit back, right? And that's when I started wondering who is voicing this thing. Like, so I mean, the spotlight following him as well through the set change instead of like the thing going to black was also needlessly funny. Like, I'm not sure how to describe it. Like, all these awkward pauses, the fact that he's just there smiling the whole time, like, you know, he's literally just there doing his thing. And then, of course, we learn that that the scope, the gauntlet of several departments just doesn't finish. Like, if you had asked me what other departments they had in this place, I would never in a million years have guessed choreography and merriment. But they exist.
You know, when he first said it, I thought he just meant like, as in, you know, he was being his usual big words of like, I thought he was just trying to say like, let's just have a music dance experience. Then you just see this marching band come out of nowhere. I'm like, no, that's
and they're playing the most lit version of the Care Him. It's like,
yo, I can't lie,
I was enjoying that song.
I was popping my head.
I was.
Keep cooking, man. Keep cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, like I went to sleep. I was like, I'm like, okay, well, this is bad. This can't be in my head.
What do you guys think is the real life version of choreography and merriment? Do we have one in actual companies?
Here's what I think, and this is actually where it gets heartbreaking. I feel like these people are just doing all kinds of normal things in their outside life, but then they come in here. Like the fact that this is the department. Think about this. That means that all of these people in this marching band for the past how many years have been coming down training for this exact moment. Like they had to learn their instruments. They have a whole section where they work, and that's all they do. That's what they come to work and do.
Listen, and this is where I mean, part of this is theory central again, like fifth appendix. But I had to have that question as well. Like, this cannot be, like, fair enough, this is the big moment for when someone has finally completed the 25th file. Like, but surely they must have more. Like, they have enough protocol. So it's not like they just hired them 2 weeks ago. They have enough protocol to be able to say, fall back, our performance has been compromised. These guys, like, how many self-serving departments do you need? And I thought about this, like, being at work, because, like, for example, today now, if I go into the office, like, a little too late, I like to sit on a different floor so no one who knows me would see how late I came in. But
and
then
they watch this video.
I hope
but
you're
go on.
as in.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, you know, but like, my point is, it's always so interesting when you now talk to people on different floors. You're like, wait, we have a department for this. Like that feeling of there's the people that you come across, and like you come across them in your day-to-day role. It makes sense that you interact with each other, but then the actual institution is so big that there are departments that are actually there to service other departments. They're like choreography and merriment is not for anything outside. Even optics and design, they have like functions all over the office. They have functions for the testing floor. They have functions for MDR, but like choreography and merriment, like what is your job and how many times do you have to do things? Like
my old place of work, they actually had a floor concierge, to be fair, and the person was in charge of, I think there was about 15 floors, and the person was in charge of kind of maybe pizzas and keeping the dishwashing clean,
like
and
the
and all of that
receptionist
stuff.
or like Pam's job in the office, like those things exist, but like this is choreography and merriment. This is an entire group of people who just, and you know, they're kept so far away that we've never even heard them practicing. How
Sorry,
big is the
AJ, I
seventh
interrupted
floor?
you.
I feel like
that's a fair point.
because the group, there are so many blacks, and Milchick can dance. I don't know if Milchick was part of the department before, but also, you know, the waffle party, the girls that come dancing with the what's it called, the face mask. I feel like maybe they're part of like this department as well. But another question I had is that like the way they were locked in, like they were almost about to kill Milchick. They locked him in, and they were still like performing. Like, okay,
that's what I was gonna say, man. These guys never stopped. Like, is it diligence or
possibly?
No, it goes back to this whole military thing Niju brought up about how, I mean, Lumon is very culty, and this marching band, I mean, marching bands have their synergy with military and whatever. Like they were like they didn't just say, oh, guys, pause, we need to figure out what's going on. They said, they blew a whistle, everyone stopped, and then it said, fall back. That's army speak.
Yeah.
Our performance has been compromised. Like, that's just discipline.
Bouncing off that, I mean, we have to also remember that the people that we've come across in Lumen that have they have their own sense of thinking, and they have cognitive abilities, actual cognitive. The seventh floor and O&D, everyone else has come across a bit
controlled.
To the T, exactly, controlled. If you even remember, season 2 is even when we're seeing these people come with cognitive abilities. The seventh floor in season 1 was very much, everything Lumen says goes, and we don't dare deviate from whatever it is that they want us to do. So, and then when you apply that to the choreography department, it's very evident why they are the way they are.
Yeah, man. Like they were actually so good. The attention to detail as well in the cars that they were holding up. Like it was just insane. They left space to match the angles of the MDR desks. That was actually so well done. And that other song, the Ballad of Ambrose and Gonal, of course referring to the family members because everything is named after an Eagan of some sort. But
that's what it was.
Kubel could never have done this. I'm just going to say that now. Everybody's saying that she needs to be the person managing the severed floor. They should watch this episode twice. Because Tremel Tillman, Milchick, he's amazing. Like literally, the man is amazing. I'm just thinking about everything that was done here. Like he just commits. Like he really commits. Do you see his face when he's dancing? He comes up to Mark and Helly and they're just like, why is this? Like, what's going on? And the crazy thing is, this probably would have been so much fun for them if they didn't know so much.
Yeah, it's true.
maybe.
Like, they actually probably would have enjoyed this. I know Dylan would have enjoyed it. Like, season 1, Irving would literally have fainted from excitement. Like, it's
Was
crazy.
it Irving that said my life was happy when I wasn't trying to be happy or something like that at the start of the season?
Yeah, that's it. That's a very real statement.
That's a very
though.
depressing line, sure.
I know. That was so
Very,
wild.
very depressing line.
But yeah, the work is mysterious and important. Speaking of depression, I guess now would be a good time to think about, what happens when Mark and Helly actually arrive. Right? We, even pulling it back from there, let's talk about Helly's conversation with Robert Baratheon. I think, like, he's such a weirdo, right? Like,
no, you
this
saying
man
it seriously and carrying on like you
I was
did.
like, wait, who?
I would just like to apologize. I mean, it's you guys that into the episode, but like the last episode, oh my God.
Yeah, James Egan is a weirdo, right?
He is.
I don't need to remind you guys of everything he said. But it's interesting to see that he confirmed what we thought just off the cuff. It's like, yeah, I sired others in the shadows. I didn't see care in my daughter anymore. And it's the same thing that, Gretchen was going through. It's like this person grew up and became, well, themselves, but you are missing the version of them that existed when they didn't know anything. So he wants that version of his daughter back, which of course explains the whole my Helly that he said at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, you are the one I've been looking for. And that fire is still there, right? Having said all that, what does this exchange mean in the grand scheme of things? Like, first of all, if you want Helly so bad, acknowledge and facilitate reintegration, maybe. But that's just a thought. But what does this mean in the grand scheme of things for Helly? What does it mean for her relationship with James? What does it mean for Helena's relationship with James? Especially given everything that's just gone down in this episode.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I'm wondering how she's feeling because she's gotten a lot of comparisons to her outie lately.
Who is her arch nemesis?
Yeah, exactly.
I
and no one else has gotten any, sort of comment saying that or has compared them to the outie. She has gotten this. So I wonder if she's internalizing that. And also when Mark is
it's interesting you say that.
When Mark is talking to her and he's trying to refine the numbers, that was a very, very heavy conversation, by the way.
Yeah.
I felt it was very heartfelt. But when he was trying to refine the numbers and then she goes on to say, but I am her, I'm just wondering, so is she beginning to accept that, maybe she can't really separate herself from her outie, but she has to try and be herself as much as she can? Or I don't know.
I think it's
very
all of the
confusing,
above,
I think.
essentially, because it's like, if we are going to be damned anyway, at the very least, go for the salvation that you've been sent to facilitate. Like, go and do the thing that will lead to at least somebody being happy on the outside. Because she's like, I'm never going to be happy because I'm going to be someone I hate on the outside. And even if, we come together and there's reintegration, like, that's just me being aware that she is me and I am her. At the very least, down here, like, Helly can just be Helly, And I really feel like, the completion of that file, like that scene was like watching him sign their death warrants. It had so much weight
depressing.
to it. Like, the performances were so evocative because of that. And it was really something that started right from the elevator. Like, Mark comes out and we see potentially the wildest O&D depiction he has ever seen in a painting. Like, I mean, they literally had everyone on it, right down to Grainer and the Four Tempers.
Again, I think, I know I had that Truman Show like comment last time, and they probably rubbished it this episode, but surely that picture brought it again to light, because how have they captured characters on the outside?
They captured everybody. The only person that isn't visible on that thing that we know, named character, is Ragabi.
And I am are you even sure she's not there? Because
That's the thing. I'm not
they
sure.
Yeah, they had
Grainer in
everybody.
this
I
shit.
looked for her and I
Like,
didn't see her.
pause and
They had Grainer in there, bro. They had
Yeah, they find that
Grainer in
Grainer
there.
was dead. From the four tempers. Like Mark hasn't even seen these people. Those are the ones that were dancing for Dylan. Like they don't bring in people that he's seen. Like it's crazy. Devin is there. Miss Casey version of Gemma is there. Rickon is there.
That's what I wanted to
Nate.
check. I was like, was that
The
Rickon or
9
was that Drummond?
CEOs are there, including Helena. So Helly is there and Helena is there as two separate people.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, man.
That's significant, right? They
Yeah.
literally had everyone, and the size of it also was insane. Like it's the same size as the one from episode 1, right? With the Confederate thing going on, but
Wait, wasn't it
it's
bigger?
the one where Kier is
Yeah,
looking
probably.
at
Oh,
fucking-
yeah, the original
Yeah.
one, not the forgiven one.
Mm-mm. Well, actually,
Yeah.
yeah, that one and even the one where he forgives his
I feel
betrayers.
like
That
this
one is
one- I
titled
feel like
Kier
this
forgives
one
his
was-
betrayers.
I
This
feel like
one-
this one was bigger.
This one they focused on the scale, but I checked and it's actually roughly the same size. This one
Oh,
feels
okay.
bigger because of the way they lit the scene and because of the way they
Okay.
filmed this specifically. But it was very let me say striking, because even the title of it that they showed us afterwards, I think they showed us the title only when Dylan was passing by. They said the exalted victory of Cold Harbor. And it just tells you how much they put into this day. But, going back to Mark and Helly, right? They arrive and then they have all these leading lights, all
Yeah.
that tension, all that suspense just to announce a waffle party. Like, it's like, that's what was in the card. I was like, bro. And what's funny to me is, the way the show is and the way that set is constructed, those lights are not automatic, which means that every time they move, like somebody is actually like hitting those lights every single time, like repeatedly hitting the lights, even later on when the lights are red and the lights that keep coming on, moving towards a certain direction. It's a whole thing, right? And I wonder if Mauer and Drummond heard everything that Mark and Helly said to each other at those desks about what's been happening to them. Did they plan to address that later? Who knows? Like it was just a lot. And seeing that statue there, I was like, wow, somebody really prepared for this. I wonder if Milchik carried it there himself.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was even gonna say I don't think they heard, because I thought that was the point of whispering. But like the statue, if there's a person there, then the statue can hear things.
I
in the
mean,
room.
the watchers, and they were literally watching them.
Yeah, they were there.
So-
Like those systems are mic'd, right? So
yeah,
Yeah.
of course. But like, but that's also my anyway. It doesn't matter as much, because whether they heard it or not, they might have just been like, well, as long as they complete the file, like they're gonna be dead soon anyway. We talked about the cinematography and the visual language changing in episode 7, and they did it again with this episode. So like for the first part of the episode, and pretty much at least until Mark actually goes to the testing floor, most of that episode is in complete darkness, and it just kind of adds to this feeling of angst that you have.
Dread.
This dread. Everything is a bit creepy. Like even when he's in the cabin, which again, it's so beautifully shot. Like it's so similar to when he would have seen Cobell in Rickon and Devin's house with the wood and everything.
Yeah.
It's at night. They do that. They just like you have him going in and out. I love the visual of that. And then eventually you come to the 7th floor, and it's just as creepy as it was when James was there in episode 9, because Milchik has left and apparently he turns off the light when he leaves, and all of a sudden the whole office is just incredibly creepy. But even when he comes in,
They do
and
have
turns
electricity
off,
bills.
Yeah, true. And even when he comes in and he turns on the lights, it stays turned off on the 7th floor. And I'm like, is this purely to give us again that feel? Like, why do they want him to complete this in darkness? Obviously,
They're being
story-wise,
dramatic, yeah.
obviously it makes sense because they have this whole thing planned around merriments and choreography, so like that works. But like from a technical perspective as well, on the viewer, it does so much to bring you into the dread of the scene. And I just love that little tidbit from them. Even like you said, the way they shot. So as soon as you came in through the elevator, you saw that painting. My note was, what the fuck is this painting? Like, it was insane. And
It was the work of their floor manager.
Exactly, and the lights with that as well. The way they use sound, bringing us to the whole talk show vibe. Because a lot of shows actually use that to when things are supposed to be very creepy, and then you see like, oh, there's that awkward laugh because the clown has done something wrong, and now something really dramatic or bad. Like they were so good technically again in this episode, and I just loved that little tidbit. And obviously it goes on, gets more progressively violent, and then the Reds come out again. The Reds come out when we see when we see the innies and outies bleeding. This is perfect actually, because when we see the innies and outies bleeding into each other again, we actually start to see blood on the screen more than we've ever seen before. And the red lights come out. Everything is just like cinematography in this episode was perfection.
Yeah, I loved the close up. Just to go back to that Helly and Mark conversation. I loved the close up so much. It was
really effective, right?
It was amazing. The dialogue was amazing. I mean, there was background music going on, and we've touched on the dread, and it was just, I loved it so much. I
even really like that callback to the series premiere, where she says she's trying to figure out places in the world that aren't Delaware, because when they asked her name a place, she said Delaware, right?
That might have been my favorite, like my
that was
best
so nice,
scene.
actually.
Well, okay, no,
it was very tender. I understand what you're saying. Like, it was a tender moment, and like for it to come in the midst of all of this chaos.
Exactly.
Just to add, when she had said, "Oh, at least it's a happy number," but he looked terrified. He looked like he was going to like die the moment he puts the numbers in the bucket. I'm just like, I don't care for like Mac and Helly, so like he should just do the thing and go and collect my girl. But I felt something very small, but I felt something. It was sweet.
And
AJ has a heart, people. I'm pleased to report.
We will actually take that. But you know what? I think, and it's actually it's great that you said that, because in some ways this works like that as well. The same way you've come around to accepting a little bit of Mark and Helly is probably where I'd go to with this thing. Chinedu kind of touched on that I wanted to say about Helly's journey. As much as Helly has been this activist / philosopher, like rejecting the idea of the innies and outies being the same person, that moment where she says, "But I'm her," was like, now that I see from your perspective, as in people have been saying it to her, I just read it initially as, this is powerful, like her realizing the gravity of the situation and being able to just admit for once that actually, like, look, Mark, it's difficult. I am her. We cannot be, even if
she can't be in denial anymore, essentially.
Like that, just her breaking the veil, or unveiling at that point, that was powerful for me. And again, it's helped by the way the scene looks. It's just
I would say like
full marks across the board.
I feel like everyone's being so unserious because they're all themselves. Inni, outie, it's still just one person. Because even like going back to Dylan as well, I feel like another thing is like he came to realize that like more so, I'm happy like there's a version of myself that's excellent in what he does. I'm happy that like even though she fell in love with you, it's still you she fell in love. Sorry, it's still me she fell in love with. Yeah. So Helly's own is more so like, I'm happy you love me, but I am her. You can't love someone like me. The same with Mark. I need to save my wife, but like, I don't know. It's just like so confusing and twisted and frustrating. But I feel like the innies and the outie, the whole dynamic, like they all just need to calm down and sit down and realize, is Lumen trying to
we are all the same people.
You're all the same people, and like this whole like dispute that's happening right now, like it's Lumen, it's not you or your outside, it's like you as who you are versus Lumen. And I feel like what Mark and Helly did at the end really pissed me off. I mean, they all got what they wanted.
I mean, we might as well.
And I like the fact that like when Helly came, she did not say, "Mark, come to me." She just stood, wanting to say goodbye or wanting to make him make that decision. Are you going to go with her or me? And Mark, being Inni Mark, the one I don't like himself, went with Helly. It's even
this is so crazy.
Gemma. And it's just like, it pissed me off because I'm like, okay, yeah, you saved her. Yeah, she's alive. But there's a version of you you're also hurting. Like, it's no longer Lumen causing this pain for like this couple. It's you yourself hurting yourself. And it was just really like twisted and frustrating. Like, love is love and whatever, but like, it was the wrong choice, guys.
But this is why I also don't fully agree that they are the same person now. Just because, and this it's great that we can come to this episode that I feel like even gives us an answer to that question. Not entirely, and we can still debate it because they are and they aren't at the same time. But for example, for the first time, an innie is referred to as a consciousness. Miss Cobell says,
I said that in episode 1, Sha.
Yeah, we did, but the characters have never like referenced it that way. We've had hints. They've said, I mean, we know that Drummond does not see them as people at all. We know that that's probably why he's so, I can just beat the shit out of you right now because I hate you anyway. And Miss Huang as well says things like,
you're beating the body of the outside guy when you're doing that, but okay.
But like, Miss Huang as well says something like what, but they'll tell him a lie. Miss Huang says something like, you make them feel like people. But Miss Cobell, for once, actually says each file is a new consciousness for her. If it's a new consciousness, then it's a new person, in my opinion. And the reason I say that is because, take Mark, for example. Mark had, like you said, Mark has done what he like Mark S has done what he intends. Mark Scout rather has done what he intends to do. He has gone to the testing floor. He has brought her up to the 7th floor. Now it's time for Mark S to bring her to the stairwell, which he does.
Yeah.
But why should Mark S make the decision that, like, cause for one, on the first part of it, I don't actually think it's that deep that he turned around because he will still leave the office eventually.
I don't think that's the plan because he wants
like,
to
maybe they're going to stay there forever.
Yeah, I feel like that's them being childish and naive. That's what they intend to do because they're going to figure out a way to stay as them. But Mark doesn't want to be his outie anymore because he knows when his outie, he's not going to be with Helly anymore.
But this is the thing, and this is why we're coming to the idea that they're not the same person. For one, physically, they can't even be the same person without reintegration. But as we already discussed, reintegration will very likely just be a whole lot of Mark Scout entering into Mark S and a little bit of Mark S entering into Mark Scout. Fair enough. That happens. But then you have this idea that, I mean, take this idea that they're supposed to work together. Take the conversation that they had in the cabin. Now, Devon, bless her, was probably doing what, and a lot of people had, like, a lot of us were probably caught with this as well. Throughout the season, people have been thinking, we need to save Gemma, oh my days, death to Lumen, blah, blah, blah. So many people probably agreed with Devon when she said, if you can prove that they kidnapped her, and more on that in the 5th appendix, if we can prove that, then we can end them. But that's the first time someone has said, wait, hold on. If you end them, what happened? Because we're not turned up. We don't exist anywhere else. We're people too. And then all of a sudden, why is Mark is coming here with this whole white savior gimmick? Like, yeah, you've been in hell. I'm going to save you. Okay, fine. Let's say I've been living a nightmare for 2 years. Your solution is to kill me? How does that save me?
Well, I mean, like, he offers reintegration, right? And I think
eventually
it's interesting to get an innie's perspective on reintegration because it's like, okay, well, that sounds kind of dubious. How well will that actually help me?
Exactly. So it's like those things to me point to the idea that actually, wait, pause. We need to actually figure this out. Who am I and who are you? Even just, and that's why I even love them having a conversation with each other through the camera and everything. It's like we really get these two perspectives of the same person, the same body, but it's a completely different consciousness inhabiting the body on one side of the door. And so for me, like, I don't know. I'm starting to see them as two completely different people as well now.
I think the sad thing is they just can't be because at the end of the day, the autonomy and the decision making and everything lies with the outie. That's just the sad reality of it. No matter what,
which is probably
no matter what the innie wants, the outie is just being nice by asking the innie, to be very honest.
And like,
we've seen innies try to claim. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Like just go on. Yeah, that's.
I feel like it's just like different layers of the consciousness. I don't know if the proper language is 1 or 2 consciousness. I mean, Cobell has said, oh, like, different innies, different folders, different consciousness and everything. But I just feel like it's one consciousness split into two. And what makes one feel like they have like a life or a say is their experiences. And I'm not invalidating Max any experience. Like, he has every right to want to be with Helly, but he needs to understand before he came to exist, someone was already there. Someone had a whole life. So now that you're saying, because you have 2 months worth of love compared to 4 years worth of marriage, you want to, I don't know, it just seemed like it was not.
Isn't that like the whole thing when parents and their kids are like, I brought you into this world. It's like, yeah, but I'm an entire intelligent being.
Yes,
like, I'm
and
here
that's
now.
valid.
Like,
but when we're talking about like Severance and this whole show in itself and just the play on like consciousness and everything, it's still one person. It's not like someone saying, so I feel like that's why it's twisted and like frustrating, and it hurts so much that like you're hurting your own self, but you don't care because you feel when you're in this state of mind, this state of your consciousness, you're good and you're fine. But what about the other person that was there before you even came to realize you exist? It's just
some would argue that the other person has had longer to live, so they should actually be the bigger person. Which is what a lot of parents would tell the kids. They'd be like, well, you're 6 years old, you've been watching TV, let the 3-year-old watch TV now.
I don't know if that's necessarily the same thing.
No,
but
obviously not.
I think the good thing about this show is the fact that it wants us to ask these questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a message here and there's something that they're trying to get across. And I've always said, good TV doesn't make you feel dumb. Good TV makes you reach higher. And this is a clear example of that. This show wants us to kind of grapple with the questions of mortality and even existentialism that exist for the people that exist in the world of the show.
Yeah.
Mark's choice here is interesting. I mean, I actually thought for a second that Helly would tell him, it's okay. You can just go. But I guess this isn't that kind of show. This isn't that. Like, she just stood there and she wanted to see what would happen. And then I think she too was a little bit surprised when he turned around.
Yeah.
And I guess that leads me to this idea that Gemma's suffering will actually never end.
Yeah.
Imagine going through everything she has gone through.
Man, poor
right?
woman.
And then she witnesses what she just witnessed. She's like, okay, bro, we made it. Let's go.
Let's go.
Can you imagine? All it takes is him coming out and it's like, no.
And not just any other woman.
It's not even just that he's going with someone else. He's going with somebody. That's the thing. Mark doesn't understand the gravity of his mistake right now because the same woman that he's choosing is going to be the same woman that spearheads his extermination.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what it is. Like, you've signed, he actually is now literally signing his own death warrant.
But if they stay there, if they stay there, and they actually manage to bar the doors and they never leave, then...
But that's not possible. She's Helly, not Eagan.
Yeah.
They can literally switch her on. And also, before we move past
they can switch everybody on, to be fair.
Yeah, before we move past
just turn on all the Glasgow blocks and everything.
There was a thought that crossed my mind if she was already switched on, to be fair, but...
No, that was Helly.
But no.
Just for that part to call him back. Just for that part to call him back.
I was going to say, love transcends severance. You see how Dylan G and Dylan, whatever his, like, Inni and Outsy, fell in love with the same woman. If Mark wants to be a sensible person, Max Inni, he can fall in love with Gemma again.
Miss Casey.
No,
sorry,
you saying love is a choice.
It's a bit too
no,
late for that.
It is a choice. You decide, and I feel like even just that kiss, like, something moved inside him. He cannot deny it. So if he's willing...
her saying what is taking place.
She was like, stunned. She said, what is taking place?
She was like, why? What is happening?
She said, I feel things. What is taking place? Like, love transcends severance. Like, it's not... I don't know. Like, I was just so like... And they were running. The music were playing. We're seeing colors.
The whole time they were running, I was half expecting Jamie Egan to pop out and shoot somebody because I knew that man was angry.
And that guy moved his hands.
Maybe. I mean, the thing is, what's funny to me is that they really did end up seeing each other at the Equator, right? And I believe this is the first time they've told a visual story in the credits. I think that's kind of cool. I feel like, seeing that we're here, taking into account, first of all, the dolly zoom, the fact that they do the Severance dolly zoom every single time someone crosses the barrier is fantastic because it keeps us in tune with who we're actually watching.
Yeah.
But, I'm saying this partly because Chinedu introduced the idea of what if there was already a Glasgow block on Helly and it wasn't Helly that Mark was running away with, it was Helena. That would be so sad. But, with that in mind, thinking about Helly, the fact that like her speech was really moving and clearly had an effect, right? She was able to achieve something. Like the whole episode for me was kind of tense. Like I was almost scared to watch it. Like the way they cut back and forth between the fun and games and what seemed like Gemma looking like a lamb being led to the slaughter, right? That was a lot to deal with. And Nurse Cecily's attempt at reassuring her with a smile also felt kind of hollow. All that, so much was going on at the same time. Like we're seeing the goats, they are racking focus. Cinematography is amazing. We see that it's the crib. I'm thinking, okay, are they recreating consciousness? Like, are they trying to see, for example, if she can be marked? Like it could be anything at this point. Like what was going on in that room, but throughout all of it, Helly was being the, I guess, deuteragonist of the show, having her own fight, fighting her own battle, and essentially winning. So I don't know where they go from here. Seeing them run like this, like it's crazy, right? Because we've seen what Mark Scout, the Audi, had to do just to get any of this to work. Like he gets there, he's screaming with the gun because Cecily was immediately hostile to him, which was hilarious because she really said, if I die, I die. Like somebody's pointing a gun in your face and you're just like, right? They're doing all this screaming. And of course, Mark Scout would never have pulled the trigger, but she doesn't know that. So him then getting into the room, obviously undoes everything that they've been doing on this testing floor for the past 2 years, because if Cold Harbor is a culmination and they were not able to complete it.
Yeah.
For them to get here, they're probably going to need another test subject. And how are they going to do that? Right? So
are we opening the first appendix now? Or like
also, just even how he broke the barrier. He broke the barrier how love transcends what? Severance. Anyways.
Love definitely transcends Severance. And the thing is, and also the Windmills of Your Mind is an apt choice for the end. It's like a very Ben Stiller thing to do, to play that song while they're running. But
it's stuck in my head.
Now I want to actually, before we close off, open the fifth appendix, because it's a question of where do we go from here? What can come? How well does this entire package, this episode, everything that's come before it, work as a season of TV?
Ooh, like how well does everything work?
What could the aftermath be at this point? Gemma is outside. Does she even know where to go? Like
to Devon.
Hopefully if they're smart, Devon is waiting outside somewhere.
I had the same question when I rewatched. I noticed that, to be fair, Cobell's plan, or Cobell and Devon's plan that they discussed in the cabin, actually did stop at get her to the exit stairwell. They didn't say anything about Mark Scout going with her or anything. So I'm just again. We could start season 3 and they'll just be like, yeah, haha, you thought.
So you think there's a chance this is all part of the plan?
No, not at all. I think Mark S made a decision, but I think I'm going with the headcanon for now that decision was okay, because Gemma, as much as she's heartbroken to see what she just saw, she'll be able to get outside. Before I even go into the question of what happens in season 3, and because won't Lumon just want to get Gemma back as quickly as possible and blah blah blah. I think what was it? There was something you said actually. Like let's start there, and if this comes back to my mind, I'll mention it again. But I'll start with the whole idea of one, Helly kind of rallying the troops, as it may be, and unionizing, because now we know that OND and MDR kind of work together, like they're happy, like they share notes. We know that Mamiya's Not Trouble will not hinder their search, and now we see that choreography and merriment probably is on the same page. So let's just call them the union, these 4 departments. Whatever stance they oh god, I just accidentally made a Civil War reference again. Whatever stance these people take, it leads me to think of, where does Lumon go from here? Because it's not just that they're standing up to Milchett, it's that they now know what the numbers mean. And now just to take things back a notch, I started asking why, why all this secrecy? Like, if Mark knew, for instance, that he was working on a file that could save Gemma's life, he probably would have even worked faster. And he's working really, he's very effective because he's done 24 files. This is the 25th one. And he's been working there 2 years. That's his work. He's averaging 3 files a quarter. That is incredible for a business where apparently nobody ever meets their quota. Which is probably why maybe this is the first time it's been done. But it raises so many questions. Is it the first time it's been done? Maybe no one has ever reached Cold Harbor stage before, but Bert's notes to Irving seem to suggest that Lumen had been connected to multiple people's disappearance. If they kidnapped Gemma or they took Gemma's almost dead body, they could have done it to many other people before. There are other departments and other refiners. What do these other refiners work on? And when you were asking about the goats, when they said how many more must I give, that's what I thought. I thought maybe they've actually tried Cold Harbor on multiple people before. Maybe Mark signing on to Severance was the first time they had someone that would be so good at it that Cold Harbor actually works, and they were really excited for it to happen. But I thought back to the branch transfers at the beginning of the season. What could have happened in those other branches that they had to close them down? And we know that there are other, I didn't take a screenshot of this, but the other protocols that we see, there's something like Beehive, there's a branch transfer protocol, there's a clean slate protocol, there's an elephant protocol. I'm not going to try and guess too much of those, but the branch transfer one is actually kind of that's the one that stuck out to me. Do we see, for example, all these innies, do they continue to work in this particular branch? Because they now know what they're doing. And I don't think they're okay with what they're doing. We can talk about what Lumen could have done differently another time, but I don't think these innies will, even if you manage to quell the uprising, why would these people ever go back to work? Do you need to give them a clean slate and wipe their memories? Do you need to transfer them to other branches to be doing different things?
There probably could be a way to reprogram the space so that it would just, the same way there are different files and different rooms on the testing floor, they could essentially make the entire severed floor a whole new space where a new version of these people would be existing.
Yeah. And
that would be quite an undertaking though.
And it would also be quite a level of evil, because then it means that any uprising they would ever have would almost be futile unless they can take the uprising outside.
And that's what they would want.
Yeah,
Chinedu, AJ, any final thoughts on that, or what the season has become, what we can expect, where we go from here? I mean, I feel like there are just so many things. The trajectory is wild. I feel like we've gotten some answers, but even the fact that Cobell revealed exactly what the numbers were. I didn't necessarily have that on my bingo card that she was going to explain exactly what it is, but it's nice to have that confirmation of exactly what those numbers are. So do you guys have any thoughts about even just the experience of watching this season as a whole?
It was great. I loved it. And talking about Cobell, I'm now thinking season 3 is going to start, because I feel they're not going to forget Gemma. They need her ship, because they've come a long way with that one ship, so they need that ship. So I'm worried for my guys again. I felt as well, and I thought she was free.
You should be.
But I don't think they will leave her alone.
Is freedom even a real concept?
Yeah, when you think about it, how far does the reach of Lumen extend? Is it just they're a multinational corporation? So even if Gemma and Mark go on the run and run away from Kier, for instance, how long before they find them and bring them somewhere else? Will they go after Gemma again? And there's still so much more, even outside the world of Severance. Again, to look at Chinedu's question on what Cold Harbor might be, or the Severance chip just being this Kier's war against pain, and where the Artetas come into play, the pregnancy. There's so much that he can still do with season 3 that it's there's a lot of story to still explore if they want to, which obviously they should, and I hope they do. Now I remember what I was going to say. It was about the decision, just away from the appendix. I felt like on the second watch, I realized that Mark S was always going to do that. Throughout the episode, the innies, I can't be asked to go through all the notes now, but throughout the episode, the innies are expressing over and over again, about this agency that they have. And that's where I was going when I said the plan was really for him to just get her to the stairwell at the end of the day. And when he gets to that, when he realizes, actually, I'm me and I can take a step back. And if all this is going to end now, then let me at least enjoy. And maybe he's going to take a stand and not want to come out. But if all of this is going to end now, why should I leave this person that I love, who I know will not reintegrate, just to help someone else? In fact, even the fact that he refers to Gemma as someone you happen to care about, reinforcing the idea that he has no connection to her. He only knows her as Miss Casey at the end of the day. I think that decision that Mark made on the second watch, it just made perfect sense. Like, and that's why I'm okay with it, because I don't see it as a permanent thing. I don't see it as Mark Stout will never come out of there and Gemma and Mark will not be reunited. For one, they were reunited on the testing floor, and maybe that's why they were, because they weren't going to leave together. But they were reunited there, and also in the future, they will definitely meet again. So I'm actually okay with the Ennies having this moment to themselves to say, no, we're taking a stand.
To follow up on that, I think, or to answer your question, it would be, I don't know, man. This episode had me. My journey with this episode was, wow, this is great stuff. This is great stuff. Wow, what the fuck? Like, literally, that was.
No, for real.
That was sorry for the swearing, but that was literally my journey, because I couldn't believe that was the ending. And I told Banky yesterday, I likened it to, obviously, Red Wedding is such an extreme example, but you're watching great TV, but you're not liking the direction that the TV is going at. That's just genuinely how I felt.
It's emotionally straining.
Bro, very, very emotionally straining. So, because I would have had whatever ending would have been Gemma and Mark going out together. And obviously to have that sense of anxiety over what's going to happen in this show or in this episode, only to see that happen, it was kind of, oh my goodness, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah. So many people are going to be pissed about that.
Yeah, but in terms of the next season, I think just overall on this season, I think it was a good season. I definitely enjoyed it. I enjoyed the progress that the outies have come to show. I enjoyed the clashes between them as well. I think next season, I would just like a bit more questions answered. So would we all, to be very honest. Like, who's Brett speaking to? Who's Irving speaking
to? That's something we still want to know.
You know, now they've gotten us interested in Bert's past as well. So what's that about? Do you know what I mean? O&D.
It's good to see that there's still so much ground that they can cover, essentially.
Yeah, 5 seasons.
Like, we have to to 4 seasons. 4 seasons. 4 seasons.
Maybe 5. No, well, even last
4 seasons ground is good.
You guys were talking last time about, do you want to see more of Jamie Egan? And I feel like with what we're bringing him down to the 7th floor can't be, like, we saw him multiple times this season. Maybe we increase the amount of times.
I feel like Jamie Egan is the type of thing that only works if used sparingly.
Yeah.
So, not every day, not like a Drummond, but like.
Yeah, but I feel like we'll just have to see where it goes, honestly, because they may not have too much use for him, and I think he still needs to remain ominous.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I like seeing that efficacy test. It reminds me of, like, Westworld and Fidelity. I like that the season starts and ends with Mark S running through the halls. Like, it's these are all really cool things that show that they know where they're going, and that symmetry. Even the viewing experience and the unexpected humorous moments. The fact that they had guest stars like Keanu Reeves, for example, was the voice of the Lumen HQ building in episode 1. I don't know if you guys know that, but that's like a very random thing that they can just continue to do. So I'm looking forward to seeing where things go. And
just to answer your question on how the season tied everything together, we already talked about this, the dialogue kind of contextualizing everything that the fans have been asking, and then also like showing us about their journeys. But I like little things little callback to the last season's finale as well. We had Gemma and Helly meeting and having a conversation. We had the whole she's alive with the wooden home fireplace. We had a celebration for them completing a file that led to a lot of chaos. We had Dylan and Helly trapping Melchett, and then like a lot of innies being in places where they shouldn't be, things like that. I like that. The one thing I know that I don't really have time to be commenting on the brain dead theories and comments you see online, but one thing I know that will piss people off is that we finished the season and Mark isn't fully reintegrated, which is quite sad, but we at least have some level of reintegration here. I mean, this is the first time AJ and I have actually been on an episode together, so that was cool as well. Like, I don't know, but
yes, indeed.
Yeah, so this is reintegration, guys. Take it. Like, it didn't come from there. You have it here. This is reintegration.
Amazing.
That's all you get. That's all you get.
Only for them to not agree on reintegration.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess on that note, thank you to everyone who's listened up until this point. Thank you to everybody who's followed our coverage of this season. We have had so much fun. We really appreciate everything that you've done in terms of following the show. I really appreciate Chinedu and my guests, AJ and Jerry. The confusion has been so amazing, and I'm sure there's going to be so much more in this season. I know we're leaving, but there's still a lot that we have on this feed for you. The White Lotus is still something that we're covering. Invincible just finished, and Yellow Jackets is going on as well. We have a few more interesting things coming down the pipeline, so definitely stay tuned. And yeah, be well. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you soon.